It appears there is quite the signal being built up on this very early morning. Let's discuss. Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, where I'm getting my O face ready for the next thumbnail, and there's plenty to talk about today on the short and medium term time frames. Bitcoin actually does take a nice little leg up towards the top side of the range, actually currently kind of sitting in the middle of the range, but all this happening while good old me is sleeping because I have a 9:30 a.m., or actually 8:30 a.m., or not AM, PM bedtime as of recently. Anyways, with that said, I do want to follow up on yesterday's analysis and then also, of course, talk about new things going on today. In fact, some pretty big things going on the higher term timeframes that I completely missed yesterday. So shame on Krown. Krown's been a very bad boy, but we will rectify that today. And it's actually still very much relevant, obviously. With that said, let's put the focus over here in the Krown Chain application, which you found at app.krownchain.net. And by the way, it's free. So take advantage of it or don't. It's all good either way. What do we see here? So we see a couple of interesting things. So while Bitcoin does head up to the top side of the range, again, ranging on the whole, that is, if you're looking at it on a daily schedule, then we do see the Bitcoin dominance actually heading up with it, which is rather interesting because that would suggest that while Bitcoin is ranging and actually taking a leg up within the context of the short-term time frame range, alts are losing a little bit of value versus their Satoshi pairings. So they are not keeping up within that regard. And that does bring a little bit into question of this whole concept of alt season still. So I would like to reference some alts and see exactly how they're doing with this new advent of price action. Sorry, I can't get my words out properly. It's a little bit earlier than usual, actually. If you haven't noticed, it's literally about 6:15 a.m. right now in Helsinki, Finland, and it is absolutely pitch black out right now. And incredibly cold with all the blizzard like weather going on. Anyways, you don't give a fuck about that. Let's talk about things that are more relevant to your life. How about this? Open interest heading up as well. And this one's really big. So if you remember, we saw open interest come down about 1.5 billion, a little bit more than 1.5 billion from this past weekend when Bitcoin was hanging out around 40,000 and into that whole major move down towards about $30,000 base, of which we saw again come down significantly there. I mean, 1.5 billion is quite the move. It's actually the biggest single day or I guess 2-day move that we've seen in open interest. However, with this advent of this next move up from the $30,000 base to about $38,000 thus far in the early morning hours, we have seen another 500 million being added into open interest, suggesting that yes, it is looking like reaccumulation. Now, does that mean that I just blindly buy into this and just hope for the moon, cross my fingers and dot my I's and click my fucking heels together? No, of course not. Yes, actually, yes. Be kind of fun now, wouldn't it? But more importantly, it would suggest that this whole segment that we're looking at right now is very much being validated as reaccumulation, as we postulated yesterday. Now, what I was wrong on yesterday, and I feel really silly about this because I rechecked my notes and rechecked my video, and it's like I fucking had the answer right in front of my face. But I was looking for another move back down towards that $31,000 or $32,000 base, of which we didn't get. I mean, we kind of got close to it on that small tick to around about 32,300, but fair enough is fair enough, I suppose. Anyways, I was looking for that actually for my own self to actually get a fucking trade in, but missed that one, and the day goes on, I suppose. However, so Bitcoin does come back down to that range and then bounce back off, putting in technically a higher low on a shorter term time frame as well. Actually, we'll get into this once we get into the charts, but well, with open interest going up, that would suggest that positions are being added. So I would still look at this as reaccumulation first and foremost. I still do look at this as trend first, and all of those still, well, favoring the upside long term, that is. Also, fear and greed index popping up 5 points from a 78 to an 83. Doesn't mean much because because it's just been extremely greedy for months on end now, but still, a warning signal in the back of the mind's eye, but needs to be accompanied by other more tangible signals, aka related to, directly to price action. That was just a warning signal. And as you can see, just blindly playing this would have, you'd be wrecked for months now. You'd be broke. Can't be done. Anyways, funding rate. What do we see over here? We do see global funding rate at 0.14% region, which is rather interesting. Let's dial this one in and see what the actual details say. FTX is leading the party at 0.09. We have, or sorry, actually no, Binance at 0.1. So everything else is going to be under it, according to the graph right here. So I actually don't know why the global frame rate is so high right there. Obviously, our calculations must be off. Maybe we're waiting for another tick on the API data feed. Anyways, looking at this right here, not really anything to be concerned of just yet. But yes, exchanges are continually creeping up. But I want to see them maintain above that 0.1% threshold before doomsday potentially does occur. And when I say doomsday, I don't even mean like an actual doomsday. I just mean like a greater pullback, of which we saw. I guess was at the end of last week or beginning of this week. Where Bitcoin came down from about $40,000 to $30,000, of which we saw actually several exchanges not just above 0.1, but actually above 0.2, which was rather significant. I mean, you have to really think about that. You're paying, about at 0.2%, you're paying maybe like 15 to 20,000 bucks in contract. For to hold your position. If you're trading with about $1 million in contract, which I kind of like to standardize it for, because that's typically the way that the bigger players can be thinking. And you can imagine that if you're putting out that cost each and every day, that's something that really does come into your mind and your profit calculations. Obviously, over time, you don't want to be holding those positions for too long. It's just eating into you. Anyways, with that said, let's go into the actual price action charts themselves. Actually, I want to bring it back to the screen first. Got my water ready here as well. And what do you know? We just added a little bit more on the open interest. So now officially about 600 million above where we were at just a day and a half ago, it looks like. All right, so here we go. And this is what I wanted to talk about. And this is what I missed yesterday. So I feel very silly about this, but late is better. Well, I guess it's not too late anyways. But we do have a 3-day closing tonight. That would be on CMEs, by the way. This is only relevant on CMEs, but I do believe that CME is the most relevant chart. It's the less fakey chart. And as you can see, Bitcoin does once again have a chance to close above the topside Toronto band, and that would be actually on tonight's closure. Now, CME does have a bit of a different closing time. I believe it's 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, not Eastern, but Central Standard Time. So that'd actually be 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, by the way. Let me just double make sure that this one is closing tonight. Yep, 15, and we are on the 14th. Yes, indeed it will. And if it does close above the topside Toronto band, especially anywhere above 37,000 bucks, which currently trading 37,385, I would be looking for continuation to the upside. Very likely for Bitcoin to test around the prior all-time high from just a few days ago, actually, and continue upwards and onwards. AKA, I'd be looking for bullish continuation over the next week or two. Obviously, we do have the weekly closing tomorrow as well for CMEs, and that's going to have another chance to do more or less the same, closing above the topside Toronto band. So with all of that in mind, if these conditions are met, I am looking for essentially continuation to the prior high and likely to new all-time highs. And remember that the weekly Toronto bands have been getting the greater rallies as it is. And while Bitcoin did technically close below the topside Toronto band on spot price action right on over here, I still do put more weight on CME. It's just been the more accurate chart, the easier to read chart. And with that said, if that condition is met on CMEs exclusively, I would, that's essentially what I'd be looking for. Anyways, go back on to CMEs right on over here. And I'm curious if there's anything on our momentum oscillators to be aware of. Yeah, this is very interesting as well. We do see that the MACD is still actually increasing on the histogram. We did not get that same read that we saw on spot price action right on over here. So I am hesitant to look at that as more important than CMEs, which are just a clear melt still, even though it is incredibly aggressive. I mean, it's the most aggressive move that we've ever seen ever in CME's history. But again, assuming that the next condition that we just laid out is met, I would be looking for further upside, I guess. I know it sounds crazy. We do still see that DMI plus is dominant. ADX is actually still strengthening into the mid 80s now. It's kind of crazy. Let's go over to the daily. Here's also what I wanted to talk about, the daily. So if you do see that the daily DMI plus, which is actually still dominant, alongside the ADX start to turn back up, which the ADX is not. So that's the missing piece right now. Then that as well would make me, well, more or less look for a move to the top side of the daily range, which on the Toronto bands right here you can see is basically around our prior all-time high, just above about 40,000 bucks. So with that said, that obviously won't be confirmed until closure, until we get the next open. So I do want to see how this one responds if and when that does happen. And if you do see it turn back up with the ADX strengthening, then I'd be looking at that as, well, very likely once again to test at the very least the top side of the range. And as you can see right here, Bitcoin is more or less just crawling its way onwards and forwards. However, here is also the really interesting thing about what just happened. Or I mean, it's not that interesting, but what's important about it is that once again we have or we would be baking in a higher low on the daily chart. Our last higher low was all the way down at around $18,000, which was a bit problematic because if Bitcoin were to come back down, that means that it could retain its uptrend over the long term. But but that comes with the caveat, obviously. It could literally fall, about more than like $15,000, almost $20,000 from where we're at right now, and still be in quite literally an uptrend, which is, not that helpful. So with that said, if this next higher low comes in right here, then we have another basing format right around the low $30,000 region, which is a lot, I think, just a lot easier to kind of follow through. And we can look at that as like a long-term area of support recognition, meaning that if Bitcoin does, come back down, we'd be looking for that area to essentially reaccumulate. And if it does break, then big problems. Yes, of course, the same interpretation would still be had as before, but now we actually have like a basing, something structurally in place here, which, is so far so good. Anyways, anything on a momentum oscillators as they are right now? Yes, so we talked about that. MACD is actually loosening on its histogram, but that's exactly what you expect because we are doing a little bit of a sideways consolidation right here. It's just not registering on a 3-day because obviously a higher term time frame, and this is just still continuation as it is. Anything to be aware of on a 2-day, and is that even closing tonight as well? No, it's not closing tonight. It will be closing on Monday, so not really relevant right now, but would show the top side of the range. Guess where? Right about $40,000. So fair enough with all of this, and we have a very similar read here on the ADX DMI as well, although this one not as interesting as a daily. Okay, cool. And obviously the daily is going to potentially even give us a signal later today. So all of that is the most important stuff that I'd actually want to be aware of, potentially happening the soonest on the most important chart. And there we go. Anything to be aware of on our spot price action charts? Well, of course, yes. So let's actually follow up on yesterday's short-term time frame analysis. So yesterday, I believe I did my video somewhere right around here. I said that I was looking for another move back down somewhere around the base of this format, anywhere around 31 or 32 or 32. And potentially even as low as the blue box territory right here. But my overall disposition was, hey, I'm looking for a bounce off this region, at least on the first pass. And most importantly, I'm not bearish on price action, not looking for this as a fucking head and shoulders, which by the way, it's not. And anyone calling this a head and shoulders, listen, I'm not trying to talk shit about these people, but this is in no way, shape, or form ever was, as we said over the last couple of days, a head and shoulders. It's silliness. It's like the shape is wrong, the volume signature is wrong, the neckline's wrong, the symmetry is wrong. It's like, where do you start where it's wrong? It's like, it's all fucking wrong. It's not here. You could do this as just an equally valid analysis. Here you go. It's a go fuck yourself triangle. How about that? It's like, it doesn't even fit. Doesn't matter. Head and shoulders. It's like, what the fuck? I'm not even a pattern trader myself, or at least I wouldn't consider myself one, especially in Bitcoin land. I do think that triangles work out pretty damn well, but other patterns not so much. So people who are obsessed with that kind of thing, good luck with that. Because quite literally they do have, I mean, if you're talking about counter trend formations, which head and shoulders, which would be a reversal pattern in a fucking uptrend, and this is coming from like actual quant statistics, I think it was a little bit less than 30% hit rate in that environment. It was either 28 or 29 or 32. My memory's escaping me here. But my point is that it's pretty fucking low. You want it to be in like the upper 60s, lower 70s. That's kind of the sweet spot when looking for edges, at least in the way that I trade. So looking at this right here, I still have the same interpretation of it as I did yesterday. Thank God, though, I did overlay conditions for looking for further continuation to the upside, and that was met by taking out last 4-hour highs wick, which was 36,671.5. And so, yes, we did get that move to the upside. I was saying about a little bit above $30,000. If that condition is met, I'd still essentially be looking for something like that. But this is where things get a little more complicated within this region, of course, as well. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that if Bitcoin does come back down and break this level right here on a 4-hour, the same level that we broke on the way up, 36,500, I would look for another drive down back towards this this higher low section right here in the lower $30,000 region, about 33. What is this? 33.5 or 34? Yeah, anywhere between there would be good for another drive down on a bit of a bounce. And hello, Sleeping Beauty. Welcome to the world. How are you doing? You look not very awake. You can't even talk, can you? Nice one. She says hello. All right. So very cool. Anyways, I don't feel too titillated here by the short-term timeframes. Even though I feel so silly for missing my fucking trade, getting a little bit too greedy with it, but fair enough. Anyways, I'll be a patient good boy now. I'll be a very patient good boy, Mr. Moon Jesus. please show me the way. But again, if you're looking at the long-term trend, it's the 3-day CME chart that I'd really be keeping an eye on. And then tomorrow is the weekly, obviously, as well. That all supersedes everything else that I'm going to say on the short-term timeframes right here. This is mostly for the range traders and the people who are, who trade more or less like myself. So yes, I'd still be looking at all these areas kind of play off on the way up as the way down. And what I would be looking at right around here is I'd still be more or less biased towards a short-term move to the upside, probably somewhere around $39,000. I don't feel too, confident about that. Like I wouldn't be taking this trade right now. I don't fucking trade in the middle of a goddamn range, for the love of God. It's like people think that as a trader you're always supposed to be in a trade. Like no, a lot of my time is spent waiting actually. And if I don't get my specific conditions met, I don't trade. That's just how it is. Anyways, let's look at our momentum oscillators right here. What do we see? We do see 4-hour RSI picking itself back up, looking better now, actually bouncing out of the bearish control zone very, 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 very well as of yesterday. Do we have any trend lines here? No, we don't, which is a little bit strange. We don't really have the formation. We don't really have the constructiveness that we once had within this, but I do believe that a little bit of sideways action here would be good for the soul, especially as HVP does contract within this range. So again, I'm looking for a range to kind of continue in here and then bake those signals in on the higher term timeframes, and then maybe look for continuation coming into like early next week. Something like that would make a little more sense as Bitcoin puts in time, which again would be better and would pull back into that constructive behavior. Right now, you can still make arguments against it either way, but I still do lean overall towards the upside. But playing between about 31,000 and 40,000, likely the order of the day, if you will. Although it's not really saying too much. I mean, it's $10,000 range. If I had to call it, probably Bitcoin does test back onto the top side. Just timing of that a little more difficult. 4-hour Stokes will remain to the upside, so momentum on the 4-hour remains to the upside as long as we're above about $36,000, specifically about 35,950ish region. Let's see how that falls through on the shorter term timeframes though. We do see that 3-hour actually will remain to the upside as long as we're above 35,200 about. Bi-hourly is showing actually momentum turning down if we close below 37,600, which we're actually currently below by about $200 right now, and hourly showing will remain actually to the upside, or will cross back onto the upside with any sort of a closure above 37 and about 700. So the very, very short-term timeframes actually trying to turn down right now, and 3 and 4 hour pointed up. So what does that equate with when we see them kind of bifurcate in that way? More or less more sideways, more sideways behavior within the context of the current range. So fair enough, on the very short-term timeframes, does Bitcoin come back down and test around like $35,000? Possible, yes. No major issues with that. But overall, I do think that it is going to pop back up and very likely test somewhere around 39 or 40,000 bucks. And that's going to start to look really, 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 really good for the higher-term timeframes. Again, I'm not necessarily calling continuation like today, but depending upon how CME's close today, that's going to really set in the buys for the next 3 days to come, and then tomorrow's weekly will set in the buys for early next week, and basically the whole week to come. But overall, it would set in the buys for very likely another drive or a try to the upside. We'll say for now. Anyways, any other things that we want to talk about on the shorter term timeframes right now? 4-hour RSI, we already identified that. 3-hour, do we have anything here? No. Looks more or less neutral on RSI, HVP contraction as well, so we're not really getting anything unique out of that just yet. Bi-hourly, what do we see right here? Let's actually take everything off, get naked on these charts. Bi-hourly is looking a lot better. This is kind of what I want to see happen on the 4-hour. I want to see it pull itself out. If it can test back up towards the bullish control zone, then it's going to start to pull back in that constructive behavior once again. So fair enough, but we just haven't seen enough time just yet. Also, I wanted to highlight this as well. I think, who was it? Marcello Dennis on Twitch yesterday called this one out. I actually missed this one myself, but 2-hour Jewel did give a buy signal on 13th of January, 8 a.m. my time. Where would that be? 8 a.m. is right here. So coming out of this space. So yeah, even more insult into injury. Not only did I fuck around with my own analysis, but I didn't pay attention to the Jewel on this one, and given a long signal right out of 33,500 was the key. And it's not always going to call fucking $5,000. That is just ridiculous. But technically speaking, about a $5,000 move from that signal given to next high, not bad indeed. And there you go. And this is actually a really good, I wouldn't say that this is certainly not a perfect signal right here, but it's pretty damn good signal, I suppose, especially in an overall bullish market. Those upward signals typically do have a little bit more venom on them. What else do we have on the hourly right here? Do we have anything unique on this one? No, not really. Not anything that we already haven't said. Hourly RSI is pulling back in that constructive behavior as well. Really like this actually. So, you know, if you start to see this start to transpire into the 4 hour, 3 hour, and 4 hour, I more or less remain on the bullish side, I suppose. Getting into the moon boy mood, I guess. Let's go over to the medium term time frames to see how these are operating as well. This is very interesting right here. Very interesting. So let's start to line this up with the lower term time frames. 12 hour hidden bullish divergence, 1, 2, 3 drives, big. 12-hour Stokes turning up as well from 35,250, which we are currently more than $2,000 above right now. And this is, by the way, coming in from would this be a trend line? Yeah, it actually would. We have 1, 2, 3, a little bit of a one-off right there, but that is why shit like this is a regression. And more importantly, this is bouncing off where the edge of the bearish control zone. So I really like this overall. Forget what this one's. Oh yeah, that's relevant for the daily right there. We'll get to that in a second. But more importantly, rejecting the bearish control zone would be a good sign in and of itself. And I'd be looking for this as yet again another signal pointed towards a little more of an upside for at least a short and medium term time frame range with the target, you know, up towards upper 39,000, low $40,000. Again, 12-hour hidden bullish divergence has been pretty damn good in this market thus far. Last time that we had it was coming off of this low way the fuck on over here at $18,000. So far so good. Anyways, moving on to the daily. Yeah, I wanted to mention this one as well. Oh, by the way, we have hidden bullish divergence on the daily confirmed as of yesterday's closure, it looks like. And also, this was the other trend line that I wanted to reference right here. This one's a big one, actually. So this trend line coming in from late September. So this is, you know, September, October, November, December, almost a 5-month long, you know, trend line right here. Getting the major lows from, by the way, when Bitcoin was at $10,000, 250. Then once again, right here, I believe it was. This was early December. So that was, let's see, right around here on this major low. By the way, another higher low. So you'll notice that that these things naturally kind of combine with each other. And then what do we have on the next daily higher low? Well, we have yet again another test on that region, which is not just that, it's also at the edge of the bullish control zone. So yes, it very likely does come down for another day, as it will naturally come down for another day if Bitcoin closes this next daily below 40,600, but it will start to very likely start to align with this trend line about that region. And more importantly, just like we looked at, or similar to the 12-hour, that will be coming around the edge of the bullish control zone. So holding it within there would start to look pretty damn good. And, you know, yes, it would make me really start to lean into those higher term time frame signals on CMEs that are potentially baking right now for looking for further continuation into the $40,000 region. So, you know, all these things together, so far so good. Anyways, anything on the 2-day? No, not really. Just above all major moving averages, all still positive slope. Kind of hard to hate that. Same thing on the 3-day as well. So I think that is it for that. We are 22 minutes into this video. I do have to make this one a little bit shorter actually, because I am going to the immigration office today to renew my residence permit, which I'm really excited about because I absolutely love living here in Finland and I don't want to go back to America, especially in its current political situation. There is so many weird things going on. I'm not, and again, I'm not a political person. I don't support Trump. I don't support fucking Biden. Neither of them sound like appealing to me at all. But I also don't like, you know, joining into the middle of a fucking war zone where everyone's now been politicized to hate each other for having different views instead of being able to talk like normal people. Isn't that crazy how that works out, right? Anyways, another topic for another time. And how about we never even discuss that topic because it's fucking bullshit anyways. All right, let's look at NASDAQ right here. So yesterday we did say NASDAQ sideways and up, and I believe that we are getting sideways and up on the short-term timeframes right here. I'd essentially stick with that today as well, although short-term, I'd be looking for it to play out a little more sideways towards the downside of this range at about 12,850, 12,880-ish region. Anywhere around here is good. Ultimately, though, the way that we closed yesterday does imply that we very likely do test around the the prior all-time high, which is 13,100. I still wanted to note, though, that this is very close, very, very close to my measured move target from months ago, actually, in October. But again, these things do take time. And also the two-spot extension right here at around 13,150. I would be looking for a little bit of a pushback right there. But ultimately, coming back up there would imply continuation of the upside, regardless of the fact. And the next major area that I want to be aware of is 13,450 long term. And this was, the NASDAQ chart right here was less obvious than SPY. SPY was the key towards making me still bullish on traditional markets. Very similar action going on, consolidation between August and November. That drove this measured move up to kind of where we are right now at about 38.50. And that's also in line with the 2-spot 414 and 2-spot 272, like right in the middle, actually. So I would be looking for a little bit of a pushback right there as well. But ultimately, what does that mean? It means that I'm bullish on both SPY and NASDAQ, as I typically do trade together. And if I'm bullish on NASDAQ, then I'm likely going to be bullish on Bitcoin, or at least having a bias towards the upside, as these two are heavily correlated. Now, what's even more interesting on top of that is we do have the tech sector, which is a good portion of NASDAQ. Where's my tech sector? There we go, XLK and XLF. Now, XLK fighting it back right here as well. And that does, again, bode, I believe, well for Bitcoin, as it does head back onto the top side of the range, as actually we said yesterday. So rather good right there. Anything else to be aware of, though, as we come into the weekly closure? I mean, if we take out last week's low, that's going to be problematic, obviously, and that's going to, make me bearish on all. It's also going to have major regular bearish divergence, actually 1, 2, 3 drives coming in from these past prior highs, but we won't mention that for now because it hasn't necessarily happened. But hey, if you do see it come back down below about 125, problems, big bad problems, but for now, I do remain short-term, medium-term, and I suppose due to the long-term trend, bullish. Fair enough. I know this market looks crazy, but well, crazy's my middle name, sir. And by the way, man, I'm still having some tears about Arthur Morgan. It was fucking awful to watch, man. God damn it, Dutch. God damn it, Micah. Micah's a real piece of work, man. He's a real piece of shit. But you know what? We'll have a ceremony for Arthur soon enough. And he was a good man. He's a very good man. Okay. I have to gather myself after that. Poor Arthur. But his legacy lives on. All right. Let's get into Link over here. Link still, I mean, again, based off the weekly, I'm still looking for upside here. I still like this chart, actually. This is a clear reaccumulation on higher lows on the weekly. Daily is probably a little bit more difficult to read. Now, Daly's popping back up here. Whoa, raspy lesbian voice back in action. $17.50 on the daily would be my area to be aware of today. And on the weekly, though, the weekly is good as long as we're especially closing above $16. So fair enough. Again, at the end of the day, it's likely to fall whatever Bitcoin does. In fact, I shouldn't even be looking at these altcoins because that's mostly the crux of my analysis. Going to follow whatever Bitcoin does. But what I would like to see is if something like Butyrol is being more obvious with Bitcoin into hinting some moves here. Now, no, not really. In fact, if anything, Butyrol's under more pressure here. And in fact, if anything, I'd be looking for a next move to the downside on Butyrol, back down towards $1,000 base. But as you can see, Butyrol did not print a higher high in the 4-hour right here. In fact, it does have potential hidden bearish divergence if this confirms as a high, if this confirms as a local high as well. So that'd be problematic. So check that one out. And this one actually could also, because I do think that this one's rather obvious. If that condition were to be met, probably look for some downside on Bitcoin too. Fair enough. Just whipping around in this range a little bit. Maybe I even get another chance at my price down on the bottom side of the range. That'd be quite nice, now wouldn't it? Anyways. Okay, what else do we got? Do we want to check out the weekly here? It looks very similar to Bitcoin. Don't really have anything new to add on top of this. What about Litecoin maybe? Maybe Litecoin has some specific... No, fuck Litecoin. I don't think anyone really pays attention. We used to see like a shit ton of people with like Litecoin in their Twitter bio, like with rocket ship emojis next to it typically. It's like, I am the Litecoin Yoda. It's like, what the fuck did I just hear? Litecoin Yoda? Okay. Well, Mr. Litecoin Yoda, step right this way. Let's give you some analyses. 145. Wow, came all the way back down to the 10 simple on the weekly. Jesus Christ, man, that was an opportunity and a half now, wasn't it? I'd be looking for this one to actually pop back up towards 160 territory. probably following Bitcoin's footsteps, and does have potential hidden bullish divergence. I would even say that's already confirmed here, although Caretaker is not identifying this one because it's not identifying this as a confirmed local low. Let's see why. High 147, close one. Okay, 2. Yeah, it's because we actually didn't close on new highs, but I would consider that. So that is, and that's obviously going to be a little more of an aggressive way of looking at it. But I would, especially in this case, especially in this environment, especially in this market, especially with the way that Bitcoin also did as well. So fair enough. There you go. Let's look at some Bitcoin pairings. So I'm very curious to see how they're doing right now, as we did see the dominance for Bitcoin actually go up. So let's just go to what is mostly considered the altcoin index, which would be Buteral versus Bitcoin over here. And oh yeah. Okay, so here's another very big signal that you could get potentially today. If we take out this low right here, 8th of January, which is 2,901,040 Satoshis, that is going to be a very obvious signal that we're going to come all the way back down, puke up this whole rally, and continue on with the perennial down motherfucking trend. And red dildos will be flying, my friends. There will be red dildos, just like the movie, you know, with what's his name, Robert Downey Jr. Is that right? Was that who it is? There will be red dildos in this bitch. I don't think they say that in the movie, but if that condition is met. And it's very close right now. In fact, I would even say coming back down to this level is certainly not a sign of strength. While you do have a golden cross right here, coming back down to test it twice is usually you don't get two chances to buy that, to buy into that. It's this one right here, and then go fuck yourself after that. But that is secondary to even just taking out this low right here. If that condition's met, yes, I'd be looking for a full meltdown, and I retain with my bearishness on alts versus Bitcoin and my bullishness on the Bitcoin dominance, of which we can quickly reference over here too. Let's see what this pops up with. Yeah, getting reaccumulated right here, although I don't really think that matters for too much. But and again, I don't care about indicators on something like this. I do care about trend. This is your friend. This is your friend. Yeah, I looking at this action right here, I cannot be. Alt season is a myth. Alt season's a fucking myth. Now, does that mean that all alts go down versus Satoshis? No, of course not, because, well, this is a market of thousands of different altcoins. And, you know, there are especially some newer ones in the DeFi market that, well, they're just doing their own thing, realistically. In fact, I would definitely check out someone like Elio Trades for something like that. He seems to find these ones that are just, you know, in their own world and doing their own thing. And, you know, that's not my game. That's certainly not my game, but I do respect it a lot because I know that it ain't fucking easy. And he's the only one, to my knowledge, doing that right now, just calling like these major moves in altcoins in a generally bearish altcoin market right now. Bearish versus Satoshis, not versus US dollar. Obviously versus US dollar, as long as Bitcoin's bullish, got to be bullish on all alts versus USD, or at the very least, you know, sideways. If your altcoin is not rallying versus USD in this market, it's a dud. It's a fucking dud. So fair enough. Anyways, let's see. Is there anything else that I want to get to? Yeah, I need to make this video a little bit shorter, as I said. Oh, I want to reference Caretaker's ranges right now. Oh, by the way, Caretaker has another beautiful present to the community, which is actually already public, but I'll make a video on it likely this weekend. Yeah, showing range to the upside about $40,000, like that. To the downside, still showing about 3750 right here. So it's actually getting the range perfectly on the greater whole. This is actually not the short-term time frame range. This is actually the long-term time frame range, which can drive obviously further acceleration to the upside. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go all the way back on over here, and let's set this up for the good old wrap up. And we'll start it off with CMEs because this is going to be the most important thing. So with that said, let's wrap this bitch up. Bitcoin on the 3-day CMEs, biggest thing coming. Nope. Let's try that again. I need some water first. All right, let's do this. Okay. Ready to go. Let's wrap this bitch up. Bitcoin CME, biggest thing happening today at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Closure could be this. If this happens, this supersedes everything else that I'm going to talk about, and I would be looking for further information to the upside, likely above 40,000 bucks to the prior all-time high, and likely make new all-time highs into next week. And that would be this: the 3-day close above the topside Toronto band. This will have a chance to do that tonight, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, or whenever CME is closed, but I believe that is a closing time for that. And if that condition is met, which it only needs to close above 36,250, which currently trading about a little bit more than $1,000 away from that, then yes, I would be looking for that. Obviously, we have the weekly closing tomorrow as well, and as you can see, it is healthily above the topside Toronto band, which I would have the same sort of interpretation on this one as I have been for the last few months, which as long as that condition is met, we are in melt up mode, and this is looking good for continuation coming into next week, early next week that would be. So with that said, keep an eye on that. That supersedes everything else I'm going to say on the shorter term timeframes. Obviously, if we go over here to the daily as well, this could be relevant if you do see the ADX start to strengthen alongside the DMI plus being dominant. Those things combined with the 3-day closure would make me more bullish for, you know, a short in the more short-term timeframes as well, looking for a move back up past $40,000 to the upside. Now, going into our short-term timeframes over here, again, with the knowledge that everything that we spoke about on CMEs does supersede this, I would still be holding to what I said yesterday. Not that I got my low side prices yesterday, but more importantly, what was the contingency on the other side? It was taking out the prior 4-hour high, which was 36,500 about right here. That condition was met, and that did set in the bias for myself for looking for further continuation to the upside. Anywhere around 39 to 40,000 bucks, it would be good for me. And this is also going to be building, and actually has already confirmed, in fact, 12-hour hidden bullish divergence, 1, 2, 3 drives coming in right here. So that will have a target, a natural target of about 39, a little bit above 39,000 bucks. And then the daily, which just happened yesterday, actually, or I guess on today's daily closure. So my time in being in Finland is a little bit strange here, but we do have 1, 2 drives coming in from our last major local low, and that would be having, again, a natural target, actually around a little bit above 40,000 bucks. And this is also coming alongside of potentially another test on this trend line for the daily Stokes right here, as we do see it holding up all of the major lows since September. This is your major September low at 10,250 bucks. Then we have our December low at, I believe this was 18,000 bucks right here. Yes, indeed it was. And then we had this major low that's currently happening, or potentially happening right now, would be coming in right around that trend line as well. Now, obviously, this is going to, you know, come down a little bit more. It will naturally come down as long as below 40,600 bucks. But there's also something very interesting about this as well. This is coming in right around the edge of the bullish control zone. So if that condition is met, again, it does make me bullish for another try towards the upside, and likely new all-time highs coming into next week. Maybe not this week, but probably next week. With that in mind, also forgot to mention 12-hour Stokes. If this condition is met as well, this would be the next, you know, most important thing, the soonest, I suppose. That is with crossing it up with any sort of a closure above 35,250. So right now, you know, trading about a clean 500 bucks above that, or a little, or not 500 bucks, trading above by actually a little more than 2,000 bucks right there. So looking pretty damn good, but still want to see that confirmed within the next 6 hours and 52 minutes and 26 seconds. And then of course, let's find out a contingency for the other side. Now, what would make me let go of these ideas and look for some short-term downside action? Basically the same thing as yesterday, but opposite, right? If Bitcoin does start to close back down below 36,500 on a 4-hour, especially, what about a 2-hour? Could we use that? Yes, we could use a 2-hour. Then I would be looking for another drive back down towards this area right here, which is actually the 2-hour 200 simple and 200 exponential average, so a really good confluence right here as well at 33,750. If those conditions, only if that condition is met. But for right now, Bitcoin looking a little bit better on the short-term timeframes. But ultimately, it's the CMEs that I really want to see start to verify these ideas. And by the way, if Bitcoin did come back down to this region again, I would actually look at that as another opportunity, especially for myself. Of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but with that said, I would like to wish you the best and the happiest. I'm going to go apply for another residence permit now. Wish me luck, please, or don't. And all good. I salute you, and until next time.